Kick the meds.
Go med. Welcome back to At the Table. Today we have a very special guest with us who is one of my dear friends, but she's also my colleague. This is Cassidy Hall, and we do a lot of programs together. She is a family consumer science agent in Johnston and Wilson. How long have you been there?
June will be 4 years.
4 years, so a good amount of time. I've been with the Extension for 5, so we are right together with how long we have been with Extension, being able to go to so many conferences and fun stuff together. So today we are really excited to bring to y'all our Med Instead of Med series. And the Mediterranean diet is in the Dietary Guidelines for Americans. It's one of the only diets other than DASH diet that has been included in the American Dietary Guidelines. So this is a really great diet to follow just because of all of the health benefits that you get from that. And May is National Mediterranean Diet Month. So our whole 4 episodes this month will be all on the Mediterranean diet and explaining the different aspects of med. Today we're really going to focus on why go med. So what we're going to start with is our quinoa summer salad, even though it's spring. We're getting into summer, it's getting warm, you're going to start wanting some cool things to eat. And this is one of the salads that you've made a good bit.
Yeah, it was actually inspired by, well, actually 2 of your recipes. The bruschetta recipe, I had some of that left over at my house, and I made sort of a quinoa chickpea salad on the side, and they were both going bad, but I didn't really have a full serving of each, so I combined them, and that's how I came up with this recipe.
Yum. Well, I can't wait to try it. We'll go ahead and get started with chopping. We've got a cucumber and some tomatoes to start with. So we'll both just kind of begin chopping up our vegetables that are going to go into this dish. So if you want to go start on your cucumber, we have, I think it's a cup of chopped cucumber, Cassidy. Yes. And I just bought these, they're super sweet tomatoes, the little cherry tomatoes. These are my favorite just because they are so sweet compared to like your regular hothouse tomato. And very easily, we're just gonna cut these, quarter them, because they're kind of big. And y'all know I love everything in bite-sized pieces, so that's what I tend to go for, is chopping it a little bit smaller than maybe is even needed. So up to you. And as Cassidy said, this is a recipe she threw together. And we always say, recipes aren't rules. You kind of do whatever you want to do with that recipe. If you have foods that just seem like they would go really, really well together, like she mentioned the bruschetta and a chickpea salad, those flavors just meld really nicely together. So you can throw that stuff together to help clean out your fridge, make some extra room in your fridge, or just to spruce up a dish that you already have. So very simple with this dish. Now, one of the reasons why we promote the Mediterranean diet is we mentioned all of the health benefits from the Mediterranean diet. Some big ones are reducing macular degeneration, reducing the risk for getting Alzheimer's, and what am I missing, Cassidy? Type 2 diabetes.
Type 2 diabetes, heart disease, certain forms of cancer. In fact, 2/3 of the chronic illnesses that we see in America can actually be prevented through proper diet and lifestyle changes.
So that's a 2/3, so think about that. And you know, a lot of times we just think, oh, it's hereditary. My mom has high blood pressure, I'm gonna get high blood pressure. My mom has high cholesterol, I'm gonna get high cholesterol. That's gonna lead me to get heart disease because it runs in my family. But with 2/3 of all of those chronic diseases, you think about that, and that is a big chunk that it's just, if we would eat a little bit better and move more, then we could really improve our chances of not getting a lot of those chronic diseases that are so common today.
One of the things that I like to talk to people about is I have them kind of think through. If you go to the doctor and you get a new diagnosis, what does the doctor tell you to do? And a lot of times people will say, oh, well, the doctor tells me I need to take this pill. Well, okay, yeah, they're gonna tell you to take this pill to get it under control, but what are other things that they will tell you to do? And they say, diet and exercise.
So huge. So we want to start trying to do that, is making these healthy choices, these healthy small changes in what we are eating. Doesn't have to be a big major change. And we talk all about that in our Med Instead of Med series, which Cassidy and I both have a series coming up this May. So I think we're both starting mid-May. And if you're interested in that, you can absolutely sign up, visit our Facebook pages, or go to our websites and you'll see that there. So we're gonna cut to a quick break, and we'll see you guys back in just a second to finish up our salad.
Whether you're returning from a family vacation, coming back from college, or even returning from serving our country, we know there's no place like home. And here at Performance Ford, we want to make sure you get there. That's why every Performance certified vehicle comes with the Performance Lifetime Powertrain Warranty. Performance Ford, welcome home.
Introducing the Star Communications app. All the tools you need in one convenient location. You can access Watch TV everywhere, check local channel lineup, check your Star email, view and pay your Star bill, report troubles, use your Star Security app, check your home voicemail, sign up for Crowd Fiber, check your Wi-Fi speed. The list keeps going and going. Download for free from the App Store or Google Play.
All right, welcome back. So we are working on that quinoa summer salad. We have our tomatoes chopped up. Cassidy is finishing up our cucumbers over here. And she pretty much used a whole entire cucumber. You can modify that however you want, depending on how much you like of cucumber in your dish. So what I'm gonna do next is move on to our quinoa. And quinoa is a whole grain. It is actually one of the very few plant-based foods that have all 9 essential amino acids. Y'all may have heard me talk about that before, which means that this is really high in protein. Does still have carbs. People are kind of scared of carbs, but carbs are what give us energy, and we need carbs to help give our body energy to do things throughout the day. So carbs are a great thing to eat, especially if they are whole grain, as this one is. And that is a big part of the Mediterranean diet, is that they consume a lot of whole grains. And we aim to have just at least half of our grains to be whole grain. So Cassidy, you want to tell us a little bit more about the other components of the Mediterranean diet and what that looks like?
Yeah, so a lot of times I get people who sign up for my class because they think that it's going to be focused on Mediterranean food. It's not necessarily a Greek or Italian or Mediterranean style of food. It's not about the cuisine. It's more about the components that make up the Mediterranean diet. And it kind of got its name based on a study, years and years of research. They noticed that in the Mediterranean region, they had a much lower rate of things like heart disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, all these chronic health problems that we see in America. And so they started to study these people and figure out, okay, what are these people eating? Why are they so much healthier than the general population? And it had to do with their diet. It was built primarily on things like fruits and vegetables, leafy greens. There were a lot of herbs in their cooking, and you'll see that shortly in this recipe. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, all the things that your doctors tell you over and over that we should be eating. So I've gotten the cucumber in the bowl with the tomato, and I'm now going to practice a technique with our basil called chiffonade. You may hear it pronounced both ways. So you're simply going to take your leaves and stack them on top of one another and then roll them into a little bundle. And once you roll them, you're then going to take your knife through and you'll cut the basil into nice little ribbons. And if you practice this with your family, whether it be on a salad or this recipe, then they're gonna think that you have just gone to culinary school, because this is a technique that makes your food very pretty, but it also kind of contributes to those bite-sized pieces. So I'm gonna do maybe a couple of handfuls because I really enjoy basil. But you could also do this with spinach or any other sort of leafy green.
And basil or any of your herbs, I actually got a little basil plant when I was at the grocery store. So a lot of times this time of year, they will have fresh herbs that are available for you to purchase. I think that was like $4 at Food Lion. And it's a great way for you to continue having herbs in your kitchen. You can set that on your ledge of a window, or it's getting warm outside, you could put it outdoors. But when it starts to cool down, you want to bring your herbs in and put them by a sunny spot. And you can have herbs all year round if you do that. But it's a really easy way to change up the flavor in whatever dish you're doing. It really does just take anything to the next level. Pizza, you could throw basil on your pizza, it's so good. There's a lot of things that you can do with your fresh herbs. So we encourage you to start trying to think about, what are some things that I can put my herbs in that I will enjoy? What are some things I can make that I could add herbs to? So we have our tomatoes, cucumber, and basil all mixed together. What we have next is our quinoa that I am cooking, and you'll need about a cup of cooked quinoa. This doesn't take too terribly long to cook. Quinoa is special in that when it starts to complete cooking, it will actually have a little ring around the outside, which kind of tells you, hey, that it is done. Just like rice, think of quinoa as a rice, but I will say, if you have tried quinoa in place of rice and you didn't like it, try it a different way. I love quinoa in salads. I love it mixed together in dishes. I don't personally enjoy it by itself. What about you? Do you like it by itself?
No, the only time that I've ever enjoyed quinoa by itself is if it's been cooked in something like vegetable broth, chicken stock. You've got to add a little bit of flavor to it.
Yeah, so similar to rice, you do have to spruce it up a little bit, but it is absolutely delicious in things. It tastes so good in your salads and stuff like that. So we're gonna let this finish cooking, and then we will see you guys back in just a second to start working on our dressing as well.
Getting a new car or truck doesn't have to be difficult or expensive. Just let Performance Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram swap keys with you. Bring in your current vehicle, we'll swap keys and get you into a new car with the Performance Peace of Mind lifetime powertrain warranty for the same or less than you're paying now. We've got a lot full of vehicles to choose from, and there's never been a better time to shop than the Start Something New sales event. It's about performance, and performance is taking care of you.
Many things have been stolen away during this time of uncertainty. No crowds to cheer on their favorite teams. Applause and pageantry have been stripped away. Thieves are looking to make your home empty and silent. Star Communications has the answer you are looking for. Security by Star. Automation and affordability, along with friendly service, makes for a security choice that is sure to keep your family cheering.
All right, welcome back. So we have a lot of the ingredients already done in our salad already. So one thing that we did want to mention is whenever you are cutting herbs, you want to make sure you're using a really sharp knife. We always say a sharp knife is a safe knife, right?
Absolutely.
And that will help to just keep the herbs from getting bruised. And it just makes them not look all gross, because when they do get bruised, they start to kind of wilt and just get a little bit brown. You want them to be bright and green and pretty. So make sure you're using a sharp knife to do that. You can also use, I don't know if yes I do, some herb scissors, which have like 4 or 5 different prongs, and you just take your herbs and just put them in there and chop them. I usually take a fork to go back through, but these are typically very sharp as well. So this is a good option. If you're a gadget person, I'm a gadget gal. Cassidy is not. We always talk about that in our workshops together. So you do whatever works best for you, and just make sure you're using a nice sharp utensil for whatever you choose. We also have a lot of color going on here. We've got our green with our basil and our cucumber and our tomato, nice bright red. And part of the Mediterranean diet is having lots of those colors. So we want to have a very colorful diet. Different colors have different nutrients, but it's also important for us to have a lot of those fruits and vegetables as well. So we've got a good amount of that here with our salad also. So I'll let Cassidy move on to our dressing, and I'm going to scoot on over and we'll move to our cheese here shortly. I think our quinoa is almost done.
Yeah, so Sydney mentioned earlier, a lot of times people get really hung up on carbohydrates. Those are one of our larger macronutrients, as is fats, which we'll talk about shortly. But with these fruits, vegetables, and herbs, you're getting lots of antioxidants and those smaller micronutrients. So that's where you're getting things like vitamin C, vitamin A, all those things that we need in our diets. And a lot of times I say we're like very complicated plants. Sure, you can give a plant water and sunlight, but until you provide that fertilizer, it's not going to thrive. And fruits and vegetables are like our fertilizer. Now, in terms of fats, the Mediterranean diet focuses heavily on olive oil, canola oil, things that are liquid at room temperature. And you may be more familiar with something like vegetable oil, and that's fine as well. We really want to be focused on those unsaturated fats. These unsaturated fats are going to be where we get a lot of those heart-healthy fats, things that can help us manage cholesterol levels, can help kind of regulate hormone production in our body. And so we're going to make a dressing for this recipe today using olive oil and a little bit of balsamic vinegar. Anytime you make a homemade dressing or a marinade, you simply need three things. You need a fat, you need oil, and you need seasonings. So we've got about 1/4 cup of olive oil here to start our dressing out, and we're now going to add 1/3 cup of balsamic vinegar. And you could use any acid, but this one works really well for this recipe. If you don't have balsamic vinegar, maybe something like a sherry or a wine vinegar, something like that would be a nice substitute for this as well. So we're just gonna whisk this in. You could do this with a fork if you have a whisk. And you just wanna make sure that it's nice and mixed pretty thoroughly. If you need something, if you're trying to make a dressing that maybe is a little bit more creamy, then perhaps use something along the lines of tomato paste, Dijon mustard. That'll add a little bit of texture and creaminess to your dressing. But we're gonna save this until we have our quinoa ready to go in our salad.
So another part of the Mediterranean diet is we do have a little bit of dairy in our diet, and we prefer to have the low-fat dairy. And you hear me talk all the time about saturated fat, and that is kind of why we choose to go low-fat. If you choose a low-fat dairy or a reduced-fat dairy alternative, then it will, not dairy alternative, reduced-fat dairy product, then it will be lower in saturated fat, just because they've reduced the fat, that's total fat that is in that product. Now, fresh mozzarella is one of those things, they don't make it reduced fat. It is what it is. So sad, because fresh mozzarella is just one of my all-time favorites. I still use it, I just use it sparingly. So that is a part of what we're talking about with, you don't have to fully change your diet completely and cut a whole bunch of things out. We just need to change it up a little bit, do what we call a med flip, which we talk all the time in our Med Instead of Meds workshop, and try to choose a reduced fat option if you have that, or cut back. So we talk a little bit about bacon, and one of the ways you can do a trick for that is to only use one, cut it up really finely, and then that will still season whatever you're eating pretty well so that you have that nice bacon flavor. You don't have to use a whole bunch of bacon in that. So I'm going to chop up, now this is our fresh mozzarella in pearls. So when we get back, I'll start chopping this up. I'll show you just how much we're gonna use, and we'll see you back in just 1 second.
Sweetie, will you turn that that down, please.
Keep life exciting, even when it's not. Watch TV everywhere from Star Communications.
After completing my contract, I still have to buy out of it? Come on. Here's your sign.
Switch to the sign that's keeping homes secure and customers happy all over the area. Security from Star Communications. We pride ourselves on fair pricing and quick, friendly service every time.
Somebody try to break into this place?
Security from Star Communications.
All right, so I've got my little mozzarella pearls already out of my container here, and I used about half of that. So you think about how much of a salad we are gonna have. We'll have a pretty good portion. You think it's about 4 servings?
Yeah.
So this won't be a whole lot per serving if you consider it that way. And what we just want to be mindful when we are thinking about our cheeses and our dairy is to consume it in moderation. I definitely still, low-fat dairy is, fat-free or low-fat dairy is a great option for you. It's a great healthy choice for your body. It has tons of calcium. It's got some good protein that we don't get with our other plant-based dairy alternatives. But we don't want to be consuming milk for all of our meals and for the only beverage that we're having for the day. So everything in moderation. And with the Mediterranean diet, we don't see a ton of cheese consumed by that population. When we look back, when we were studying the people of the Mediterranean region, what they ate, they didn't consume a ton of dairy, but it absolutely can still be part of a healthy diet. So that being said, you won't see some things like pizzas loaded with cheese or lasagna or things like that in as part of a Mediterranean diet recipe, just because it doesn't really align. So there are other things that you can do to adjust that and still make it a healthy, med-friendly recipe. As Cassidy said, it's not necessarily that it has to be a Greek dish or a Mediterranean dish. It's really just the different components that they consumed more of. So lots of that olive oil, whole grains, lean protein, healthy unsaturated fats, all of that fits into the Mediterranean diet. So Cassidy, if you'll bring me the rest of our salad, I will dump this in.
I'll go ahead and add our quinoa. Mentioned earlier, quinoa is one of those whole grains that we want more of. And one of my favorite things about the Mediterranean style of eating is that it's not exclusive. We eat all of our food groups, which you'll actually find in this recipe. We have our whole grains, we have fruits, we have vegetables, we're seasoning with fresh herbs, we have that healthy fat in our dressing. And if you're wondering, what about the protein? We're gonna add that in last. So yes, there is some protein from our cheese, but we also have chickpeas. And you may find these in the grocery store labeled as garbanzo beans, but these are one of our plant-based proteins. So what this means is it not only has protein, but it also has fiber. And that's another nutrient that we want more of in our diet. So we actually hit all 5 of the food groups with this recipe.
And you could still add, if you wanted like chicken, I think some leftover chicken, if you had like chicken breasts that you chopped up, that would be really tasty in this. Salmon would be really good in this. So there are other alternatives that you could still add to this if you didn't want it to be fully vegetarian. But beans are a great way to up your protein, get that protein in without really having to have a ton of animal-based protein. And beans count as our vegetable as well. So we tend to want half of our plate to be fruits and vegetables, and then the other half is going to be those whole grains like that quinoa and our lean protein. So we are getting that with this dish. It's very simple, it's very easy, and as Cassidy said, I love that she just made this up. She just threw together some things that she already had in the fridge. So be creative. Think of ways that you can use some of the foods that you're cooking throughout the week to make new dishes.
And this is a recipe that would be great. You could have it as a main entree if you want to eat it cold, especially in the summertime. Throw in some of those cold cooked shrimp. But if you want this more so as a snack recipe or an appetizer, it's very versatile. You can use it for lots of things. And we mentioned it before, recipes aren't rules, so you can really make this your own. And we didn't have salt, but you could add just a little bit of salt to kind of bring about those flavors that are here. And this is one that is actually better the next day. So once all these flavors have had time to marry in the fridge, it's just a really nice recipe, super refreshing for spring or summer, because we've been getting into that kind of weather lately.
Yeah, once it starts getting warm, you want to keep that in mind. So if you're interested in learning more about the Mediterranean diet, really diving in, we just barely touched the surface today of what the Mediterranean diet is and what is all involved in it. And if you want to join us, Cassidy and I are both doing workshops. So I'm doing kind of a hybrid where it's in person and virtual. Cassidy has
I have one of each, yeah. So I've got a virtual and I have an in-person.
And anybody can join that virtual program. It doesn't matter where you live. You can join the in-person one if you are into driving a little bit further. So if you are interested in learning more, diving more into this diet and how to just really take charge of what you're eating and change up just a few things to really make you a little bit healthier, then please look at our website, join us. We love doing this program. It's one of our favorites, and we hope that you will practice eating some of these foods for our National Mediterranean Diet Month. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.